Hello and welcome to EvilGinger Miniatures. This should be going out on the 23rd of December, when in real life I will be either at or heading to the beta site to spend the holiday week there. This is probably going to be a reasonably short one because I'm having to do it well in advance to get everything properly scheduled. But here we go, and happy Christmas everybody, because in 2 days from the time this is recorded it will be Christmas, and there are people on here who obviously celebrate that either religiously or secularly. So have a great time, people. I will attempt to, even though it's not really my time of year for celebrating stuff, and had a bit of an interesting year, so celebrating might not necessarily be on the cards. This one is all about scratch building, and I've been doing a lot of scratch building recently, mostly bases for a project that will close off one of my commissions, which has been hanging around due to the mental health issues from last year for far too long, and will be going to the gentleman as soon as I can get it done. I am well prepared for this, as my lovely next door local shop has been getting me these in specially, and I use lots of them. Ignore the price on them, that's not what I paid for them, because I've been buying them in bulk. I've got loads of these about, and what I've been doing is I have been cutting small chunks of this stuff, which is cereal packet, into either 5 or 10mm squares and sticking them down to MDF bases to provide a bit of texture. One thing I will say about this sort of packet is when you stick it down, stick it shiny side down, because the shiny surface does not take paint very well. Paint will stick to it, but if you handle it when it's not 100% ready, you'll wipe it off. Whereas the back side of the card, which is just plain unfinished card, will take paint and it'll stay there. The other thing to say about the card is that it's just grey board, but it's not grey. You can get this from all sorts of sources. I got it from War Games model cardboard boxes, as well as from these, but I generally have this around, and it's quite a decent bit of cardboard. This is cut into 10mm squares or 5mm squares, and then stuck with white glue to the board. Now, the white glue which I've got, which is actually industrial quality stuff, will stick quite nicely the shiny side, and it won't cause a problem. These are then, you fill the bases up. For dungeon corridors, I'd probably use 50mm wide for the bases. For the models that I'm intending to base them on, I've obviously used different sizes to suit the model in question. The idea is being a market square, operating on, for a dungeon, that your inch is either 3 feet or 5 feet, well, 2.5 or 5 feet, depending on what rule set you're using. And we get this appearance. This is 10mm squares for the most part, and it's painted grey, painted dark grey. I rather profitably used grey primer, that's the next coat. Stormy grey, which I should have a pot of in front of me, but anyway, I don't. Stormy grey Reaper, and then I dry brushed it with the grey primer. Because of the slight texture, I mostly got the paint on the top of the rather than down the side. I then washed the whole thing with, I then picked out, because it's big enough to do that, I took a small brush round and picked up all the gaps with a 000 brush, and then I applied a very thin coat of Army Painter soft tone over the whole lot, and then just wiped it off. Now it's important not to dab it, because what you want to do is you want to leave the white, the paint down in the cracks. So you just wipe it strictly like that. And that's the bit I was using, paper I was using, that's just packing toilet paper. But that's 10mm, which is probably my preferred size for dungeon floors. But as the commission asked for cobbles, which I unfortunately couldn't do, I've drunk my coffee, we had to settle with sets, which are just 5mm squares of the same material stuck down to an MDF base. This is a 2.5 thick one. If I was doing 2.5D, I almost certainly get a 10mm wider base than this, or 20mm wider base than this, set the base in and have walls up the side, which would be about 1/2 inch, 10-15 mils high, just to give you the impression of it not being, of there being a wall without it getting in the line of sight of the camera when you're filming, say, a dungeon adventure on it. This is another example. Again, with this one, you can't pick out the grape so easily with a brush, so this is just painted dark grey, dry brush lighter grey, and then washed and wiped. I did the same with this, but it didn't work quite as well as I would have liked, mostly because I was using this is 200mm square, by the way, was using too small a brush. The biggest brush I had to hand was a wall basis 3 times 3 watercolour brush, which is perfectly fine for this and even for this scale, but I probably could have done with a size 6 or 8 for that, and I might need to buy one specially because wall bases don't do anything bigger than 6, and my other supplier don't do anything bigger than a 4. And as I say, I'm not sure. I used to get my bigger brushes from Spirit, and the Spirit's been closed for quite a long time. I can't get them from there anymore. Sorry, I'm dry brushing, so I use my hand as a palette, and I've got acrylic paint all over it. It's perfectly harmless. It's just peeling, so I'm peeling it. It'll also wash off if I bathe. It'll come off even if it's dried. Won't come off anything else if it's dried, but the skin is fine. You just get that sorted out. The other hand is always a palette, is a useful palette that you always have available. As I say, I might need to do a little tiny bit more work on that just to get it a bit more even coloured, but this is about as big as you would want. Imagine that as a dungeon room. That would be on the 5 foot to an inch scale, would be 200 is 4. God, my mental arithmetic's gone. For the 200 would be 25 into 100 is 4, so that'd be 8. That would be 8 squares by 8 squares, which is quite a decent size for a dungeon room. And because it's flat, you can lay scenery over the top and other things. So there's plenty of options. If I was doing it a full 2.5D, I'd have to put walls around it, and I'd have to have restrictions on where the entries were, which is the advantage of completely flat dungeons, flat floor plans like that. Obviously, round rooms would have to have potentially little stub corridors coming out of them, and that's one of the reasons I will probably want my own laser cutter at some point soon, but it's another expense I need to get, another thing I need to get. And the stuff I need to get is list is building up. I know other YouTubers who would put that sort of thing on a wish list, but I'm not going to do that because I'm a business and not, and I only borrow money off other people for the business. But I might need to borrow that to get a small basic laser cutter for one-off jobs. I'd rather buy stuff from a professional work basis if I'm doing big stuff and repetitive big stuff, because flat MDF is actually really cheap if you do get it off people, especially wall bases who do some very, very nice stuff that you can tart up without actually costing a fortune. But that's what we've been doing, and that's what I will be building on. I will be ordering more wall bases, and I will be turning them into stuff. First of all, scenery for demo use, and secondarily, stuff you can probably buy off the Etsy shop and use yourself. I like the idea of me doing the prototyping, and these are in their own way prototypes still, and being able to show off what they look like in practice. Expect that to be something that you see on a fairly regular basis going forward on this channel, both in gaming videos and in sort of production stuff where I've taken pictures of things in game. Anyway, let's get back to the YouTube stuff. I'd like you to subscribe, and I'd really like you to like this video, because I want people to see this, so I can get the editor guy paid and generally improve the quality of my video presentations, and do things beyond being a man talking to a camera or a camera looking down at someone painting stuff. So that's a development I would like to have, be able to do. It's all coming along, but it takes a long time, and I have got other distractions from just doing that consistently. I mean, I'm planning on getting these figures that are behind me out, the train that's behind me out, and actually showing stuff off. And I've got lots of terrain I need to build, including the Frostgrave terrain, a load of Baron's War terrain, you name it, and possibly other things like Guards of Traitor's Toll, which I really want to play, if only because I want to see the figures and build them, because I'm a modeler as much as a gamer. Anyway, I think that's probably about enough for me for today, and I'll see you all in the next one, I hope. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.